Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you today, lucky people, is my absolute favorite dark, which is a dark I like to use for shadows and a dark I like to use for nature. And it's very kind of murky and loamy are the words I'd like to think of to describe them. It's a pretty great.
Call it?
It's a murky, loamy dark.
Okay.
Loamy, which is, kind of the dark part of think, Leah, what am I trying to say?
Right.
Right. It's like the dark part of like naturey, woody things, kind of dark and woody. Maybe I'll look up what loam means. I have it in my mind as sort of deep, rich, dark, but not like, there's like darks that are cool. This is a very warm dark. All right, so I've got radiant green. Maybe I should have waited to record until I had all my colors. Give me just a second. I'm going to grab my green. Radiant green. Oh, don't tell me I'm out of burnt off. I have a big painting I'm doing at someone's house, so a lot of my acrylic colors are kind of migrated over there. Hold on. Okay. So give me just a second, Andy. I'm going to get these all on. All right.
Okay.
Okay, here we are. Okay. So, as usual, I want you to be aware as you're mixing that we're not just taking a clap of one, an equal clap of another, and an equal clap of a third. Because I want my shadow to be dark, I'm pulling in blue first, and then a bit of the burnt umber, so that my shadow, so that my dark, so can you see the difference? If I put this here, just blue, no, I've mixed it with brown. Here, let's see. You can see the difference between just the blue and the blue with the brown. So as you can see, I'm pulling little pieces in. I don't want this to look brown, so I'll continue to mix in more blue to kind of balance, but I don't want it to look too blue either. I don't want it to have this bright color like this. And then I'm adding in just a tiny bit of green, not too much. I've got a little canvas here.
Did you say a tiny bit of green?
Radiant green. This is my favorite mix. It's my secret mix. It's no longer a secret because I've recorded it. Although for the length of time you had to wait for me. And look how beautiful and rich that is. If I spread it out and I feel like there's too much blue, I can always pull in a little bit more brown. So that is a really great shadow color, particularly in nature. So Andy, I would start by mixing that and doing your shadow colors, fairly strong. But the second thing you're going to do is after you're done with that, you're going to be, I've got a little bit of burnt sienna or transparent red oxide here. you're gonna mix a much lighter color to go next to your shadow. So you can see right now, the color that you have next to on your road is about the same color as your shadow. So just a little bit lighter like this, which is the reason that these colors look so flat. If you look at it from this side, you'll see, oh, very vibrant and dynamic. Here, not so dynamic. So if you want your shadow to stand out, which usually it does on a bright sunny day, that's because the sun is coming down and where the shadow is, it's quite dark, and around the shadow is lighter. Let's see.
And then you're making a soft edge between the two?
I was just doing that out of habit. It's terrible. I'm just showing you. You can't see, right? What I'm showing you is there's virtually no difference in value between them. So different. No, you'll probably do a harder edge. You'll probably do a harder edge between them. But work on getting your dark enough first. But if you're feeling like that's still not working, it's because, look what happens when I do this, when I mix something lighter and there's a hard edge. Or if you want to be really dramatic about it, you can mix white. No. White, something like, I don't know. You can get out of the greens altogether and like mix. I'm using burnt umber and white. You can mix like burnt umber and white, or burnt sienna, or transparent red oxide and white, right? To create something that, and make your road that color. That will help you distinguish your shadow color. So your problem with your shadow really wasn't just the shadow. There was a little bit of red in there. It would have read a lot more like a shadow if you had had lights, the road light next to it. So your first job is to mix that shadow color and lay it in there. And then the second job is you're going to mix a lighter color for your road. We'll play around with a couple of things. You can experiment. And then you're going to change the color of your road, your whole road.
So I'm sorry, Leah, because I'm trying to take notes for all this. The burnt umber and ultramarine blue, there was more of that than the viridian green, right?
Yeah. But, you know, not too much. So try, this is something it's better to try than to, I'd say there's more, I'd say it's kind of equal brown and blue, and then less of the green. But if you write this down, it's not as, it just depends. You might have to adjust it a bit. So it's less about like the immediate and more about the immediate mix and more about what you do after.
Right.
So try that first. Try that first. I'm going to turn off the video because I think that's like all we really need. So now we're going to talk about mixing greens. And I'm going to add, so to my palette of Viridian green, so I'm adding to this palette that wasn't here before, cadmium red. And Andy, this is totally going to be recorded too, so you don't have to worry so much about the notes because I'll have Holly mix it up into a little thing.
No, I really like taking notes. It helps.
You like taking notes too. Yeah, I got it. Yeah,
no, I know you're focus. So.
Right. So I'm taking, so all my greens, if you will see, a basic green out of a tube. I don't care what color it is. Sap green is not a tree color green. This is Viridian green. You're going to see it's kind of flat. It doesn't look like a natural color. So to get any kind of natural looking colors, you need to mix a bit of the complement into the paint. So so green is, the complement of green is red. The challenge is not to get too much red in, but enough red to affect and push back the green. So I'm pulling Viridian green over here, and then I'm just taking the corner of my brush like this.
And sorry, when you say red, you mean like a cad red medium?
I have this cad red right here.
Yeah.
This is a cad red light actually, but it could be cad red medium. You can see that even that was too much. So I'm going to pull in a lot more green. So it's just a tiny bit. So I picked up that little bit and it was too much. You'll really be able to tell when I add yellow to lighten my green. Now you can add different yellows to get different types of greens. Okay, so this like reads more like a landscape green.
I'm abandoning you guys.
Okay,
See you
Dana, we'll
later.
see you.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye, have a
sweetie.
good week.
Yep.
You too.
So you never lighten your grass with white unless your grass is really cool colored, just to show you what that looks like. It looks very flat, kind of pale. Now, maybe sometimes it's useful. Most of the time you're going to want like yellow to lighten your white. So you're going to take a lot of green and just a tiny corner of cadmium red, and then add yellow to lighten it. Now, when you're painting your grass, and it's the same with your trees, it's going to be a big brush you're going to want to use. I don't know if you can see how big this brush is that I've got. And what you're going to be doing,
Are we talking about grass or trees now? I'm sorry.
it's kind of both. Kind of a similar technique. So you don't want so much, you don't want like these little, so number one, we can't do this, right? Like this doesn't work to paint grass. I love that people try to do this. But number one, you can never paint enough grass, right? To do that, this little dip, 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 dip. You can never paint enough grass. It's just like you can never paint enough hairs on the head. So what you're looking for are transitions between lighter and darker areas of grass. So you want to, I like to apply short vertical strokes of like a darker. So I'm going to add a little bit of blue even to darken it even more. Of a darker grass color in like this. And then I'm going to load my brush with lighter grass color and kind of overlay on the top of it where the lighter meets the darker area. So can you see how I'm kind of applying this? I can even just keep getting lighter. See how I'm not, see how there's two things I'm not doing. One thing I'm not doing is I'm not scrubbing like this, which is going back and forth over the same area 100 times, because that really flattens things. So I'm doing little vertical short strokes and kind of overlaying them on top of each other. And then gradually lightening that color so that there's more, say, yellow.
With similar short.
Yeah,
strokes.
similar strokes. See how I'm just kind of going all the way down? And then I can come back over, and in areas where there's like really strong lines, I can kind of tap them away. I'm almost, now here, I'm going to put my camera back so you can really see what I'm doing. Get the camera to go back. All right. Watch this. I'm kind of steadying my hand. I'm holding my brush and I'm kind of coming back over and almost tapping so that I get rid of any strong, I still have this variation, but I'm getting rid of strong lines. So I don't have any of this happening. I'll show you. So I don't have any of this. I don't have these, like I don't have that. I don't want these strong areas kind of spotted in my grass, right? I want there to be subtle gradations. So I'm gonna come over here and to get rid of that. I'm kind of tapping. I'm loading my brush with a little bit more color and I'm kind of tapping through. See? You know, it's, you know what it's similar to? It's similar to when we did clouds. I know that was a long time ago. So do you see that? So I've got like a little bit of variation because I'm tapping and I'm not going over the same area twice. Well, I am, but it, you know, using different colors. And I'm using this short choppy stroke because my grasses, and I'm trying to create a transition from, it's a little bit darker the farther back we go, and it becomes lighter as it comes, we come nearer to the front. So as I come further down,
Shouldn't the strokes also get longer as you get closer to the foreground?
no. What you'll do to create a little bit more detail in the front is separate with your fingers one or two like bristles like this. And you'll notice I'm kind of globbing. I'm adding paint. You won't feel much control, which is good. And I can do this with these sort of globs of paint. See how as I get towards the front, I can sort of subtly add a little bit more texture, going all directions and loading up this tiny little piece with paint that I'm kind of awkwardly dragging across. That's all you really need to do. It's similar to this debate that Pat and I were having at the beginning, where she was talking about the bottom of the car. She got very obsessed with the detail, right, about the bottom of the car. And I'm like, nope, nope, nope. This is not the detail you want to get obsessed with. We want to simplify here and we want to add detail there. So that's about as close as you get. That's why it's also important to use a big wide brush. This is a 1-inch brush. It's about 1 inch across. I can even show you that. Do I have it? Yeah. No, it's like a 3/4 of an inch. So there's a lot less detail in grass than you think there is. You can wait till it's dry and go over it again. But really, you're kind of looking for transitions, general transitions from darker to lighter. It's not always true, but very often things get a little bit darker and bluer as they go farther away from you. So you can the key is to avoid any strong lines and to avoid overpainting. So I'm going to, I guess that didn't want to be there anymore. I'm going to stop the video. No, I'm going to stop the record.